South African Music Industry Council is calling on government to intervene in what they're calling a summer's impasse. The council says it shattered at the news that the KwaZulu-Natal provincial government has pulled the plug on hosting the South African Music Awards. The KwaZulu-Natal Department of Economic Development, Tourism and Environmental Affairs, MEC Siboniso Duma, announced a couple of days ago that it decided to cancel the hosting of the South African Music Awards in Durban to be held next month. A decision that he says was taken after a wide consultation with several stakeholders. The cancellation follows allegations by ActionSA leader in KwaZulu-Natal that the department was planning to spend 28 million rand for the award. So to take this discussion further, we're going to be joined via video linked by the president of the South African Music Industry Council, Vusi Leeuw. Vusi, good afternoon. Thank you for your time with us here on the SABC.
Good afternoon to you and to your viewers.
Right, Vusi, on the back of the impasse, as it's been described in the statement today, perhaps you could help us understand how we got to this point. What happened behind the scenes leading up to the cancellation?
What I would say, without getting too much into other details, is the fact that we know that one of our members, which is the Recording Industry of South Africa, RISA, who are the custodian.
Right, so we seem to be having some technical difficulties. Let's see if we can re-establish that connection with Vusi Leeuw. Again, joining us via video link, president of the South African Music Industry Council. Vusi, we lost you a little bit there. You were actually just providing context. I believe you're back. You're providing context as to how we ended up in the situation leading up to the cancellation. Perhaps you could continue.
Yeah, so I was just saying that we know that our member, which is the Recording Industry of South Africa, RISA, who are the custodians of the South African Music Award entity, had applied for funding, which is what they do every year with different places. In the past, for instance, we had the province of Northwest hosting the summers for quite a number of years, actually. So this year they had applied with the KZN government for funding, and there was an announcement that there's been an agreement between KZN and the Summers, and that the Summers were going to KZN. And what has happened after that has been a series of misinformation, sabotage, but I think largely politicking amongst political organizations, where different things have been said about the budgets, for instance, of the Summers, which, for instance, I can assure you that to host a big event of like the South African Music Awards, it will never cost you 8 million. You need more than that, because, for instance, just having to take besides the VIP guests, but the artists that are going to be performing at the awards and the production team costs more than 8 million, because you have to fly them, accommodate them, and a number of other costs that come in. So the fact that there was then press releases that went to say the Summers had asked for 8 million, that is not a fact.
Okay,
but
so
more than anything here,
I just wanted to get in on those points. You've made quite a few points that you was dispelling some misinformation. You are also, amongst other people, questioning whether there's political scores to be settled. I wonder at this point, because you've alluded to some of the cost breakdowns and justified, the amount eventually that had been announced, 20 million rand. At this point, as SAMIC, there have been calls on government to resolve the impasse, the summer's impasse. I wonder if you could speak to how are we any closer at this point, and what are some of the resolutions on the cards? Have you walked through the procurement processes, perhaps justifying the costs that you've also alluded to? Bring us into your confidence on that matter.
So what we're saying that is, we believe that for the Summers to have had a contract with the department, there would have been processes followed, and the department wouldn't have signed an agreement if the processes were not followed. But more than that, we basically are saddened by the fact that the government has not tried to intervene in approaching us as SAMIC to say, how do we together make sure that the South African Music Awards, that the South African Music Awards do take place this year, so that the artists that are supposed to be honored and celebrated this year, they are not disappointed. And at the same time, there's a whole lot. Our industry has been affected deeply by COVID, and the jobs that were going to be created through the summers that are created almost every year. Now there's certain people who stand to lose work who had already been counting on working at the summers. That includes production. People who are in production with production companies. I think I can name the whole list of what makes an event happen. But there was also, in KZN, for example, our colleagues in CIVSA, they had already planned to go through to 11 districts of KwaZulu-Natal with some of the nominees from the Summer Awards, basically sharing information through activations, making sure that artists that are not nominated are part of the South African Music Awards, have an understanding they benefit through information sharing and getting a chance to meet and present their work with some of the artists that are and the players in the music industry.
Vusi, just very quickly, I need to wrap up. I just wonder, given the dynamics that you've now alluded to, what was SAMIC going to do if the impasse is not resolved? You've spoken about the industry contributing to the GDP on the back of the COVID-19 pandemic recovery as well. So I really wonder where to from here. And also, what are the sentiments from the artists? Are they voicing any displeasure at this point?
Yeah, the industry as a whole has been disappointed by the decision to cancel or to pull the plug on the South African Music Awards. So what we are planning on doing is, obviously, as we're celebrating our rugby team, the Boke, we will allow that our minister, who has been missing in action actually on this matter, comes back in the country together with the president, and we are pushing to get an urgent meeting with them so that we're making sure that this matter is addressed and treated with the utmost respect and agency that it deserves, because the implications are huge. Sorry.
All right, Vusi, thank you for your time.